pick it up the next day. You know? What David was bringing up was edition sizes. A lot of photographers, I have to say it's primarily the art galleries are insisting on this, where the photographs now come with in a limited edition. Typically, prints were always made such, like a large edition of a fine art print might be 100 copies, a small edition might be 10. And there's this whole question of whether it's an edition of 10, theoretically and realistically on some level, a print from an edition of 10 is worth more than a print from an edition of 100. Now the same thing sort of applies to photography, although until very recently, maybe 5 years ago or something, photographs, the numbers of the edition were never really, they were never numbered. It was just, here's a photograph, here's one of the copies. And then photographers would make them as they sold one, or as the gallery sold one, they'd make another one. Now you're starting to see where galleries are insisting on like an edition of 6 or edition of 10, and the photograph will have a much higher price tag on it because it's a limited edition. And what I was just talking with David is one photographer, Steve McCurry, who, if you don't know his name, you certainly know his photograph.
Oh, yes.
Right?
Yeah.
He, I had a conversation with him about a year ago, and he was starting to produce work in a couple different sizes. One, say 30 by 40 inch prints. Those would be a limited edition. I'm sorry, I can't remember the number. And then he would produce, say, smaller prints, again, I'm sort of guessing, but maybe 16 by 20, and they also would have a number. But anything smaller than that, like 8 by 10 prints, he wouldn't bother numbering. So he could print as many of those. So there's many different ways of handling this. Admittedly, it's kind of a pain for photographers, because we've always just sort of printed them as we need them, or as we sell them, that sort of thing. I think that...
John, I've got a question on that.
Sure.
What if you, so we had say you had a 20, what'd you say, it was 20 by 30?
I think there were 30 by 40 and then a
30 by
smaller
40.
size.
What if he blew, and that would be an edition run.
Yeah.
What if he was to blow it up to say 40 by 60?
Well,
Is that another edition?
It is another edition. This is the thing. This is typically galleries have sort of always got around that too, in that they will sell an edition of prints. Like this book, we printed 2,000 copies of the book, but we printed 50 copies that had additional pages, additional photos in them, and also came with a print of this photograph, a fine art print of this photograph. And those were the special edition copies. We sold those primarily to raise money to pay for the printing. And those were, we sold those for $500 for the book and the print. And that's not, the print is an 11 by 14, but with the understanding that that's an edition of 50. But as David pointed out, we're still selling that print in a larger, you know, if somebody wants to buy a 20 by 24 or 4 by 6 feet or whatever, those are still available. So it's, people are, it's a little deceptive, but it's also kind of like buyer beware sort of an issue. If there's a number of photographers and galleries printing things in 2 different sizes, but I think what you're finding is once those sold out, they're like, oh, well, we should just print another size. These are selling like hotcakes. We'll keep printing them, you know. So technically, to be able to honor the whole system of having, you know, this limited edition, they won't print any more of the same size, but they'll. I mean, even I remember when I was doing the fine art lithographs, there were artists who would make an edition of 10, but then they'd knock out like another 10. And label those all AP artist proofs. So they're actually an edition of 20, but they'd inflate the price by numbering it as an edition of 10. So a lot of that is sort of deceptive and kind of subject to change, and also subject to the morality of the photographer or artist, whatever, that sort of thing. So, should I answer your question?
Yeah, very well. Yeah.
I got it.
Bye,
You got it?
David. Thanks for coming.
Email from.
Yeah, perfect. Take care.
Bye.
It was a great class. Bye-bye.
Thanks for bye.
Yeah, in terms of back to the teaching, oh, who was asking about the hole? Was somebody asking about that? Does anybody want to look at it? It's kind of
That's the cheap one
Yeah.
that.
This is the cheap-ass $50. Now, as you can see, there's heavily modification. The big blobby thing on top, because I added the additional lens to it, the viewfinder now no longer matches what you see in the lens. So I had to add the big blobby thing on top is actually from an underwater camera, which when you're shooting underwater, you can't look through a viewfinder. It's got to be big, otherwise you can't see it. So I added that on top and manipulated it so it sort of matches with the lens shoots, that sort of thing. So it's a bit clunky now, but it's a problem.
How hard is it to modify?
Relatively simple. It's a little bit trial and error. You make some changes, then take a roll of film, see what it does, make some more changes, that sort of thing. I mean, I think there's probably no film in there. If you want to bring it over, let me see if I can. I mean, all I've done, these things are a total pain in the ass. They come, this part comes off, so I actually added a hinge so it's a little easier. Look at that, there's film in there. It's a good thing there's nothing exposed. But what you end up with is you have to add this piece because the viewfinder doesn't match the framing. And I like a viewfinder that gives me the same, so I can, it's hard to frame something if you can't see what the hell you're looking at. So it's primarily things like the hinge, the viewfinder, just add another knob. But the biggest thing is the additional lens that makes it wider view, which is much nicer. So where were we? Back to sorry guys. In terms of taking pictures, have the camera with you. They're so easy and so cheap and whatever to keep. Now the other big thing, you notice a lot of pictures when I'm taking photographs. They're framed pretty tightly. I mean, you see up here, not this one, but you see up here the. Go back to this. Examples here. For instance, you get a lot of people when they're taking pictures. Just. They're much too far away. They actually take pictures that there's a real tendency when people are taking pictures to just, for instance, if I'm taking a picture of Danielle, a lot of people will just stand up and go click. There, I took a picture of Danielle, and you get all this space in here. Whereas really you want to get in fairly tight, and take a picture. The trick to that, it's called fill the frame. You basically want to get in and focus on what's important. Focus on the thing that makes the picture something worth looking at. And for instance, in this particular case, it's in real tight. This guy's face and this tattoo, I don't know if you could read it because it went by very fast, but it's a picture of his son who was a New York City fireman, died in 9/11. And it says beloved son and the date 9/11 or whatever, and it's like a tattoo of his son. I mean, that's the important thing, I mean, you see, you start seeing things close up. You like, in the drag queen photographs, what's really important